Hello, City of Tamarac. This is Tamarac Commissioner Mike Gelin, the District 2 Commissioner, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight. And I want to welcome you to our first quarterly business roundtable of 2021. So our economy has been hit pretty hard as a result of the pandemic. So I thought it was important to bring some community leaders here that focus on economics to talk about the economy in general and how we plan to overcome this. So tonight, I'm going to introduce the city's Economic Development Manager, who's responsible for the overall growth and stability of the economy in the City of Tamarac. We'll also have the Tamarac Banker from TD Bank, who helps us stabilize our financial resources, and a small business owner in Tamarac that owns the State Farm Agency, to talk about how the pandemic has impacted her business. As a small business owner myself, I have felt some of the impact of this pandemic, as we all have. Our lifestyles have changed. And so now, without further ado, I will start to introduce our panelists so that you can meet them and we can focus on this conversation. So I'll start with the city's Economic Development Manager, Lori Funderwhite. Please, everyone, welcome Lori Funderwhite. Hey, Lori.
Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm great,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. Okay. And now I'd like to introduce our State Farm Agency owner, Eva Hernandez.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hey, how are you, Eva?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for
and
inviting me.
finally, my pleasure, my pleasure. And now I'd like to introduce our banker from TD Bank, Pam Kalawan. Hello, Pamela.
Hi, Mr. Gelin. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Happy to have you all here tonight. So as we all know, we've all been impacted in some way, shape, or form by this pandemic. It's changed our lifestyle. It's hit our pockets in some way, shape, or form. So I want to start this first question with, well, first, let's start with the introduction. So Lori, when you were 16, did you think you were going to grow up and be an economic development manager? How did you get into economic development?
So actually, I grew up in a rural community in Illinois outside of Chicago. And at the time when I was growing up, manufacturing was in decline, farming was in decline, which were the two primary industries where I was growing up. So when I was 16, was actually asking the question, what can we do? This area is suffering tremendously from, industries that are failing and high unemployment rates, and what can be done. I didn't know about economic development as a profession. I didn't know what city planning was at the time, but I started formulating the questions that are a part of this as a career, as a profession.
Okay, very good. And we'll get into that. Eva, please tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you got to the City of Tamarac.
Well, a little bit about me. I'm actually a New York native, and I've been now living in Florida for the last 2.5 years. But I've been involved in the insurance industry for the last 15 years, but with State Farm for about 9 years now. And I actually got into insurance because of my sister. She actually owns a Allstate agency in New Jersey, and that's how I became to love insurance. And here I am today.
Okay, very good. So I'm an insurance agent myself. I focus on group insurance, but a lot of people don't value the importance of insurance. So we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And Pam, most people, when they think about a banker, they think about walking into a bank and seeing the teller, or talking to a banker about buying a home. Tell us how you got into government banking and how it's different from private sector banking.
Sure. It was not my choice, actually, to get into banking. It just worked out that way. It turned out it was a part-time job that I got going to college, and I evolved from working into the branch, and it was a department that was in the same building. And I said, "Great, I'm going to try this out," and here I am. So many years later, here I am.
Okay. All right. Very good. That's good to hear. So I'm going to start in my comfort zone with insurance. I'll start with you, Eva. About over 500,000 Americans lost their lives as a result of COVID-19.
Yes.
And we've seen a lot of GoFundMe accounts start up for people who have lost their lives. Have you seen people rush, or have there been an increase in the rush for people to buy life insurance policies now that people have died and they see the value of insurance?
Yes, I actually have seen the value. I tend to find myself talking a lot about it more than I did before, especially because this pandemic was very unexpected. So,
Mhm.
if you don't have life insurance, it's unexpected for your family to get that financial hit. So I tend to just speak about it, like I said, a lot more about it to make sure that they understand the value of it. A lot of people kind of just brush it off. They say, no, I have it at work.
Mhm.
I don't need it. But do you actually have enough at work? Do you know
Right.
if that life insurance goes with you if you decide to leave that job or get something else? And that's something that they didn't know. So I've had more conversations, and yes, I've seen the increase in life insurance and the need for it, more than I did before, because we just don't know what may happen, and we don't want to leave our family with the burden of, what are we going to do tomorrow?
Right.
And every time that I see a GoMe fund, I actually, talk about it with my team members and talk about it with, the people that I speak with every day, especially my customers.
Mhm.
If you just do that one thing, like, it doesn't even cost you a lot to have,
Right.
life insurance. We literally spend money on pretty much junk food, when you can put that $5 that you want to buy those bag of chips, and you can put $5 a month away to be able to afford something and not leave your family that financial burden. And like I said, I just tend to find myself talking about it even more and more and more every
Yeah.
day.
Absolutely. So as you know, I do group insurance, and companies always offer a life insurance policy.
Yes.
Sometimes the maximum they offer is $50,000 a year. And whenever I do open enrollment meetings, I tell people, look, this is not going to be enough for you, especially if you have a family. So make sure you go to State Farm or some other independent agency
Yes.
and buy a life insurance outside of work. Because even if you have a good life insurance policy at work, if you quit your job and you give 2-week notice and you go to another job, if something happens in that 2-week gap period, you're out of insurance and you can really harm your family. So
That is
we'll talk more about that. So I'll go to you, Pam, because government agencies have also been hit pretty hard by this pandemic. How many years do you think it's going to take before things stabilize? And will cities recover a little bit faster with this last round of stimulus, where local governments will now get money directly from the federal government?
Sure. So your question encompasses a lot of what our economists have actually been talking about, and we had a few economic outlook seminars recently. And broad perspective, with the stimulus money that is being flushed into the system, it's going to keep everyone afloat. That's the goal, right? We've
Right.
learned from previous experiences, with the past, with various indicators that have happened. So this is why the monies are coming into the economy, so that everybody can have, and it's exactly as it says, it's stimulus. It is to stimulate, to help fund, different parts of the economy. So it all depends on how we're going to spend it.
Right. All right, very good. And speaking of spending, I guess that's a little area for you, Lori. Um, it's your responsibility, I presume, to put Tamarac in a good position for businesses to see us as an attractive city, and for them to want to have their business headquarters here or a location here. How has the pandemic impacted your economic development efforts as it relates to trying to make Tamarac an attractive city for business owners? And how have they reacted as a result of the pandemic?
So the pandemic, no doubt about it, has changed everything.
Mhm.
Everything we all know. We had an unprecedented drop in our economy nationwide, worldwide, last year within a few days' time. So it changed for the economic development program for the city. It changed everything almost on a dime. So we quickly switched to more into a crisis, economic crisis mode, trying to help our small businesses. It was really about, as Pamela said, trying to help people stay afloat as much as we could, doing small business grant programs, trying
Mhm.
to figure what we could do to help our businesses, whether it was, giving them additional commercial signage, allowing restaurants to, open up outdoor seating, really trying to be creative and see what we could do to help our small businesses see this through. And we started a campaign called Tamarac Together, Support Local Business program, which encompassed, all of those things that I just described to try and keep everybody going. And, the federal programs that came out through the SBA advising our businesses, getting the word out, making sure everybody knew how to take advantage of those programs. And that work continues. We do see, I think, a light at the end of the tunnel. But our businesses still are suffering, and so just trying to make sure that with the new bill that's come out, the federal legislation, there's a new restaurant grant program that's going to roll out hopefully next month. The SBA is putting that program out, but just advising our restaurants and other small businesses on what's available. Just yesterday, they announced that PPP will be extended. It was going to expire tomorrow, and now it'll be extended through the end of May. So continue to work on more in an economic recovery mode for the time being.
Okay, that's great to hear. So speaking of the pandemic and all the trouble it's caused, not only did people lose their lives, some people have also had long-term illnesses as a result of COVID-19. And as an insurance agent, some people have disability insurance through their job. I like to consider it income protection insurance because it provides you with income while you're out on disability. So for Eva, have people started to see the importance of having disability or income protection insurance, and have you been able to push that product more as a result of the pandemic?
Yes, because what I do tell, and especially my customers that are self-employed and that's their only source of income, I always try to find out, do you have something else besides this that can actually, help your family out, and you basically don't have to stop doing your regular, everything that you do every day, your bills, everything gets paid for. And you don't have to stress out because now you have this disability income policy, which is separate from either your job, or even if you don't have one, this actually can help you. And State Farm has a great product for that, that I tend to talk myself a lot about more. And we do offer short-term disability. We offer hospital indemnity policies where it also works as a supplement. So especially during COVID, if you get hospitalized and you're there for a certain amount of days, and you're not working, what happens to that money that you lost through those days? State Farm has a program that we're actually going to give you money for being hospitalized every day. And you can use that money to pay for the remainder of your hospital stay because maybe your insurance company didn't help you cover all of it, or you can use that money to supplement for the income that you lost during that time.
Okay, all right, that's good. So I'll make sure that residents and non-residents have your contact information so they can learn more about the products and services that you guys offer.
Thank you.
So Pam, Lori said that she sees a light at the end of the tunnel. Does TD Bank have any projections for when they believe, or the banking industry as a whole, things will start to turn around and normalize, and people will start to get back to work?
Sure. So what was talked about at length was we had several different views based on the market indicators, and what, in essence, all the funding that's been streamed into the economy, what they're looking at is the interest rates, the Federal Reserve, and where the interest rates are at, in addition to the funding. And they're going to use that hand in hand to keep things going. Right now, there's an influx of borrowing because of the really low economic rates out there in all the various indices, right? So we have mortgages, you have municipal lending, you have bonds, you have loans, et cetera, et cetera. You even have individuals purchasing more cars. So there's small car loans, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really stimulating various areas of the economy. And with that, they're going to continue to monitor monitor and ensure that it continues to work the way it's working, so that we can continue to build upon it. So to specifically answer a timeline, that's left to be seen. I don't think we know exactly what the timeline can be, but when there was a huge conversation about it a month or two ago, they see things carrying through about for the next at least 12 months or so. They see where things are going to continue to go in the direction that they are going, which is really good. While some individuals may feel different sources of low points, the overall economy is definitely seeing improvement.
Okay, that's good to hear. And speaking of low points, back to you, Eva. Have there been customers that have been forced to cancel policies because they lost their job and didn't have the income to support and continue to make premium payments for different insurance policies that they purchased? Or maybe a small business owner lost their customers and were forced to downsize and thought about canceling policies. How did you deal with those situations?
Unfortunately, yes. We've had a lot of policies have had canceled because of that reason. People haven't been able to pay their premium, but State Farm has worked with a lot of our customers on helping them through this financial hardship. But I have seen a lot of customers, downsize their policies until they're able to, generate enough money all over again to be able to have the policies the way they had it and basically kind of just stay at float. But yes, we have seen a decrease, but we have also tried to work with a lot of our customers as well.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. And hopefully things will turn around economically and those people can pick those policies back up. So speaking about the economy, Lori, commercial real estate has taken a big hit. And a lot of cities try to balance having a property tax base where some of the property tax revenue comes from businesses and some comes from commercial. And Tamarac has been a bedroom community where a lot of our tax revenue comes from homeowners. How has the commercial real estate market had an impact on the city of Tamarac? And I imagine it's hard to project going forward what we will do in terms of trying to bring more commercial development here. But talk about how that's changed your forecasting or the city's view going forward as it relates to commercial real estate.
So commercial real estate across the country throughout this pandemic has certainly been impacted as everything else virtually. So I think we're going to see, and we've all, been reading about this and talking about it, how different areas of commercial real estate are going to be impacted. Obviously, retail was completely turned upside down over the last year. And the office market as well, as people were working from home. Industrial and warehouse distribution centers there's been a proliferation of growth as online shopping has grown, and that was strong heading into this pandemic. And so out of this, there's a lot of conversations about what trends will continue, how much are people going to continue working from home. It appears in some capacity that will continue, and what kind of impact that has on the office market moving forward is still to be determined. It's likely that, I think that corporate offices will still, exist. They just may change their shape. They might have a smaller footprint. The way people office might change a little bit, but we'll still have that office presence. So I think there are opportunities, certainly in South Florida, one of our economic drivers. And again, this was heading into the pandemic. We have a lot of people who want to live here. And so new residents moving into the community, and now that people can work from home, why not live in a beautiful place while I'm working from home? And so it's really spurred our residential market as well, which is fueling, I think is going to continue and will fuel growth in our other areas. So I see, some of the trends that are happening now in commercial real estate as positive, on a positive trajectory, I should say. And it's, hopefully something that we can, oh shoot.
He's in the office.
You have an energy. There we go. Wave my arms. So it's hopefully something that we can capitalize in Tamarac moving forward. One of our key objectives certainly is to update some of our outdated retail plazas, and so putting some incentive programs in place to do that. And I think the market forces and market trends are moving in that direction for some investment in the commercial real estate areas.
All right, that sounds good, and we look forward to learning more. So recently it was announced that the City of Tamarac is going to get approximately $10 million to help spur economic development. How have those discussions been going in terms of the city's planning? And Pamela, is our banker involved in some of that planning in terms of how we spur the economic growth based on the additional funds we'll get from the federal government? That's for you, Lori. I'm sorry.
Okay. So the discussions I know are just getting started here.
Okay.
A lot of it has been, confirming the exact amount, what strings may or may not be attached to how the money is spent. And so I think,
Right.
getting the answers to all of those questions is the stage we're in now, but it's certainly a great opportunity, I think, for the city. And so there will be a good chance for us to invest in economic development and community development.
Very good. Very good. And Pam, a lot of bankers view themselves as business partners to their clients. Are you involved in the city's strategic planning and long-term planning as it relates to our finances and our banking capacity?
Sure. In certain aspects, yes. So once you guys have laid out your framework and decide which way or what projects, maybe in terms of loans, bonds, or investments, in terms of even operations, in terms of how the city will operate its banking needs, yes, we do talk as appropriately needed.
All right. Very good. And back to you, Eva. Can you explain why it's important to have an outside policy and to maintain that outside policy outside of the workforce? Because many of us, and the way the insurance is structured, is most people only get the insurance through the workplace. And so, can you talk about why it's important to get your insurance outside of the workplace, and how do you communicate that to employees in your marketing efforts?
Well, basically, like I said, every time that I have a conversation, I always bring up, I always ask, do you have anything outside of work? And I think it's important to always have something outside of work because, like I said before, you don't know if that policy is going to carry over with you. You don't know if it's going to be enough for you and your family. Anything can happen. You can have an unexpected birth coming, so how do you know it's going to be enough for your family? So to me, it's important to always have something outside of work because, like I said, you just never know, and you need enough to make sure that you maintain that whole household. If you were not there, God forbid something was to happen to you and you're the breadwinner of that family.
Right. And can you give us an example of a time where you were able to deliver a life insurance policy to a beneficiary who maybe didn't know that their parent or their loved one got a life insurance policy, and how was it? How did they receive it, knowing that, hey, my family member really looked out for me, and you were able to deliver a beneficiary the proceeds of a policy?
I'm going to be 100% honest with you.
Yeah.
I thank God that I haven't had that chance yet.
Yes.
So I haven't had the opportunity to do that. So I'm very happy and fortunate. So everybody that I have it's still with me.
That's good. That's
Yes.
good.
So I haven't had that opportunity.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I've had to deliver some news to family members. However, it is nice to say, hey, this person did love you and took care of you, and these are some documents you need to sign in order to get these proceeds. And so that's always a nice thing to deliver going forward. So Pam, back to the economy. Governments are typically very stable. And can you talk about Tamarac and our stability, our general finances? I know you can't go into the specifics, but in our credit.
I'm sorry, I lost you at the end of the question. The last,
Yeah,
the
no.
last thing I heard.
Yeah, so some governments have been impacted a lot more than others who may not have been as stable. Tamarac has stable balances and balance sheet. Can you talk about maybe some other cities and some of the struggles that they have in terms of lost revenues as a result of the pandemic?
Sure. So, in general, yes, you guys are fortunate. You do have a healthy balance sheet, and you do have really good management strategies in place for the future. There were some cities, though, that have definitely seen some loss in revenues. There, with the stimulus money, that is definitely going to sustain them for short term until they're able to recoup. Um, and the other part, I can't go into specifics about each
Right.
particular municipality that I know about, but the other half of your question, you were trying to find out if the municipalities are going to reestablish themselves, or what was the other half of the question?
Well, hopefully they can reestablish themselves with the combination of the stimulus and also the economy turning around. So I guess that's left to be seen. So we'll just hope that the infrastructure package is being proposed in the federal government moves forward, and other economic indicators will move forward, and things will turn around. We'll go
Absolutely.
back. We'll go back to you, Lori. So, Lori, you came from a large city in Chicago, and now you're with a smaller city in Tamarac. How different are your economic development efforts as it relates to trying to attract a business to a big city like Chicago versus a smaller city like Tamarac?
Well, the actual economic development work itself, you might be surprised, is very similar.
Okay.
Marketing your location, regardless, and economic development is what it's about. So marketing your advantages. Every place has its challenges. Every place has its advantages. And in economic development, you're playing to your advantages and addressing your challenges. And so,
Mhm.
Chicago had a different set of those things, challenges and opportunities, and Tamarac does as well. So I really think, in that way, it's very similar, more than you might think. I
Right.
think, some of it with Tamarac is, when we're in Orlando at a big retail trade show, people, we first start by positioning, where Tamarac is, talking about who we are, and then we can quickly move beyond that into showcasing what our opportunities are here for commercial real estate investment, for retailers, for restaurants. So that's kind of where we go. We also have an opportunity, I think, if somebody has heard of Tamarac, they may have a perception of Tamarac as being a retirement community, which of course we're not just that anymore. We've had new families moving in. We're a very vibrant community, so their perception may not match reality, although that's changing and has been changing. I think those are some of the challenges, but we have lots of opportunities here, and so getting out there to tell that story is really what it's about.
All right, sounds good. And speaking of telling that story, I often hear complaints from residents about not having wonderful restaurants to go to, and things that people may not understand about a city. So, I mean, you meet with business partners all the time on a regular basis. Your goal is to attract businesses to the city. Can you talk about those conversations and what potential business partners look for when they're looking to have establish a business in a city?
Absolutely. Well, first, I am on a mission to dispel the notion that we don't have
Yes.
restaurants.
Yes.
Tamarac has 60 awesome independent mom and pop restaurants that span cuisines from around the world. We're,
Yes.
we're like the United Nations of restaurants in Tamarac, which I love. So, to celebrate our culinary diversity, last year we started a Savor the Flavors Tamarac campaign, which launched, and then unfortunately we had to cancel due to COVID. But
Mhm.
we're starting again now. So we're starting obviously restaurants have been hit hard, and we're starting a 6-month restaurant Savor the Flavors campaign starting next month. So we have all sorts of fun things planned. We're going to do a month-long scavenger hunt. We're putting an online digital map together to help people figure out where to go and what to do, and to promote our restaurants and any specials that they may have to offer. So we have a lot going on here with our restaurant scene. When we published our first map I had residents who'd been here for 30 years and said, I had no idea. So our mission is to get the good word out, not only to the people that are here in Tamarac, but to the region, that all that Tamarac has to offer. So that's one of the things that we'll be working on, and stay tuned for more on that this year. But generally, when potential restaurants are looking for a new location, first they're looking at the proximity for their other locations. Of course, they don't want to open a store too close to another that they have. They're looking for vibrant communities that are growing, which of course Tamarac is. They're looking at the number of households and population. Potential, of course, they want potential customers and density within a radius of their location. They're looking at median income. Typically, the amount of retail and restaurants in a community what you have is operating at an equilibrium. So to tip the scales, you want to have growth in your population, which we do have here in Tamarac. So the great news is that we are vibrant and growing. And I think when we're telling our story to potential restaurateurs or other businesses who are looking for workforce, Tamarac has a great story to tell.
That's great. Knowledge is key, and it's going to be my goal to visit every restaurant here in the city of Tamarac.
Excellent.
So it's Women's History Month, so I'm going to go off script a little bit and just ask each of you ladies, starting with you, Pam, to talk about the importance of having a woman's perspective in the room, and what your career has been like in terms of the advantage of you being in the room as a woman, just in celebration of Women's History Month. So Pam, how has that benefited you, or how have you contributed as a businesswoman?
Sure. So at work, obviously we have a diversity pillar in the organization, and I'm happy to say that I chair the Women in Leadership pillar for the state of Florida.
Very nice.
And I do a lot of mentoring with that. So I view that and sharing and hearing stories. Sometimes, we want things and we would like to have things, not unless we had a perspective from someone else. Because I'm sure if I shared the same thing with either Lori or Eva, we both had different experiences. So after we may hear some of their thoughts and what they've learned along the way, it may not exactly be what I thought it was going to be or what I want. So having that different viewpoint is ultra important, as opposed to being tunnel minded and, trying to have that one want that you may think is perfect, but it may not be. So that would be my recommendation. So that's how I'm contributing in the work world. And then on the normal side of life, the work-life balance, I find we've all had to adapt. And earlier on, Mr. Gelin, you talked about that work-life balance, and we all had to figure that out. So I have a pre-K little boy that I am homeschooling while I'm working from home. So I had to learn that. So I had, now I know as well, with all that I've seen, I have a whole new understanding for when people say in life that the time goes by. I'm like, I always thought before I had a little one, what do you mean the time goes by so quickly? Now I know the meaning of that, because the other day I remember just having him. Now he's about to head into kindergarten. So that's a whole new perspective. So as I move along, I continue to learn as well. And I encourage everybody else to do that.
Yes, and I'm sure TD Bank has been pretty flexible with you and all of their employees in terms of balancing the balance of managing work and managing a child at home.
Absolutely, they have been, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. Thank you.
Very good. And Eva, State Farm has been really good about having female agency owners. Can you talk about the work-life balance for you? I know you have children, and managing an agency, and being a mother and a successful business owner.
Yes, well, State Farm has been great, and it has allowed me the ability that I didn't think I didn't have actually before, was to be able to spend more time with my family, which is what I enjoy the most right now. And then especially moving to Florida, it's like I get the best of both worlds right now. But it's been great. They're a great company. We're a great company. We're very supportive amongst each other. I've built a lot of relationships here because I came to Florida not knowing anybody, just my brother and my significant other's family, and that was pretty much it. I just had to make friends, and it's been great. And I can't wait to go visit all the other restaurants that you guys have out there.
Yes, yes. And Lori, I know Tamarac has been good about having women in leadership roles in the city of Tamarac. Can you talk about your experience being a businesswoman and having a woman's voice at the table for important discussions?
Especially in the development world, there have been many times that I've been the only woman in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I just think overall in that circumstance or any time, it's important to have a diversity of perspective in the room. And it just brings a different set of you see the situation potentially through a different lens, and so having that diversity of perspective in the room, I think, is always important. You may see a policy issue in a different way, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Tamarac has been great and is great with having diversity in our workplace, and we have a lot of women in leadership roles. Which I think is fantastic. I've been fortunate to have a lot of female mentors as I've been rising through my career, and then I think it's important too, and Pam touched on this, is also to reach back and help the next kind of generation, if you will, in their careers too.
All right, that's great. Thank you all. Before we wrap up, as we all know, the government has done a great job of rolling out the vaccines at a faster pace. So hopefully we'll all get our vaccines and move forward and get back to as normal a life as possible as soon as possible. So with things moving faster and the economy starting to get back to normal, if we could just close with your closing thoughts or a closing hope maybe for the next 12 months. Does anyone want to volunteer before I pick on someone? I'll start with you, Lori, since we work at the same agency.
Sounds good. So yeah, I mean, I think clearly we all hope that our economy continues to improve as we pull out of our public health crisis
Mm-hmm.
and everyone is vaccinated. So they go hand in hand. And so
Yes.
as the public health crisis improves, then the hope certainly is the economy won't be far behind, and jobs will be coming back, and we'll be full steam ahead again.
Yes, and people will buy more insurance policies. Lori, Eva, give us some closing thoughts and what your hope is for the next 6 to 12 months.
Well, my hope is for everything to really get back to normal. I want to have my doors open. Right now my doors are locked. I do, people do come in by appointments and things like that, so I want a lot of things to go back to normal. I miss the interactions. I miss going to the Chamber of Commerce
Yes.
breakfast and everything. So
Yes,
I miss seeing you guys, so I want
yes,
everything to go back to normal soon.
yes. And Pam, I'm sure you're wishing the same thing because you really have 2 full-time jobs with the pre-K and the banking. So what is your hope for the next 6 to 12 months?
Absolutely. While I miss everyone and I miss going to all the events and everything, and both Lori and Eva touched on it, the one thing that I've gotten used to and I realized it has helped my stress level is the roads and the traffic, right?
Yes.
So now, so how can we accomplish the same thing, right, without not being on the road?
Right.
I'll leave that to you, Mr. Gelin.
Yeah. Well, I think what's going to happen is your bank will allow you to show up at 10 or 10:30 instead of 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and save some time in traffic. So ladies, yeah. So ladies, in celebration of Women's History Month, I want to thank you for being here. And as a way to thank you, I will present each of you with a proclamation in celebration of your career accomplishments and in celebration of Women's History Month. So thank you for being here tonight. I'll look forward to seeing you again soon, physically or virtually and to present you with your proclamations. And so with that, I will say goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. So that wraps up our quarterly business roundtable. I hope you learned more about our economic development efforts here in the city of Tamarac. I hope you understand that our financials are strong. We have a great partnership with TD Bank and other banks. And we also have small businesses like Eva Hernandez and her State Farm agency that rely on the economy and us as customers to survive. In terms of the pandemic and vaccines for the coronavirus, the City of Tamarac, we are working with our state partners and federal partners to roll out a comprehensive program to make sure that as many of us who qualify for the vaccine can get the vaccine in an orderly and in a timely fashion. In terms of our next community chat with Commissioner Gelin, at maybe 1 or 2 commission meetings ago, a resident by the name of Doris Spann introduced the Vision Zero program, which is a vision to have no accidents or no deaths as a result of a traffic accident in the next 20 to 40 years. So we're going to have a good discussion about that next month. And in the month of May, we're going to have a huge mass community bike ride where we're inviting the entire community to take a short 5 to 6 mile bike ride throughout the city of Tamarac, being escorted by the Broward Sheriff's Office to really just enjoy the outdoors, see the beauty of Tamarac, and enjoy a nice, healthy bike ride. So look forward to that event coming up in May. And then in June, we're going to have a Men's Health Month discussion. So thanks for attending and watching this live stream today. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at mike.gelin@tamarac.org, or you can call or text me at 954-913-0299. Thanks for joining us tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next month and next quarter for our next quarterly business roundtable. Thanks, and have a great evening.